Greetings commanders and welcome back to another Warpath video. My name is Eagle, and over here you see to my right Argent Flame. This guy over here is not just a normal officer that we currently have for artilleries. Lately, officers are being done in a very specialized way. So we don't have many generic officers anymore. We have more specialized purpose officers, and this is one of them over here. So in this officer highlight video, what we're going to be doing is going through his skills and telling you why this officer is very specialized and only used in specific scenarios. You can definitely use him everywhere, but he shines in specific scenarios only. And we've been seeing a lot of these officers lately, and that is actually, in my opinion, is actually a pretty good thing. And the reason for that is because it kind of works really well with your playstyle. So if you are the person who is playing more defensive and you kind of like sticking out and defending some locations within the map, then definitely this is one officer that you should definitely play. On the other hand, if you are a very offensive like person or player, then definitely there are other officers such as this guy over here, which we're going to be highlighting very soon. And this one over here is definitely for offensive players more than defensive ones. So that's why we're going to be telling you first about Argent Flame, exactly what you need to know knowing about this officer, going through his skills and his best pairings as well in this video. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So Argent Flame, basically, in order to unlock this officer, you would need to be in a server that's already been deployed for about 300 days, which is like a lot of days considering that there's a lot of new servers out there. But if you are looking to move to an old server, then definitely you are able to unlock this officer over there. And if you're interested in moving to server 12, I'll leave some info in the description where you can talk to people and get to know that I just moved there yesterday and it's gonna be super fun in the next period. Talking about this basically officers stats over here, we have artillery, we have garrison, and we have skill. And let me tell you what, this is a main garrison artillery based officer, and you will see that from his skills right now. So this skill over here, before we can actually talk about this skill, which is very interesting, we're going to be talking it to you from the standard version and then from the awakened version, because the skill gets an upgrade, and it kind of a very massive upgrade when this officer gets awakened. So as normal, it fires an artillery shell, does 1500 damage coefficient. But if you're serving as the troop leader, that means that your aide, which is the secondary officer, would get 25% increased skill damage. Now that is very helpful, especially when you're pairing this officer with, for example, Saber of the Nation. That's always pretty good, especially if you like getting that extra damage coefficient. That means that you will be dealing so much more damage with this skill. However, when you awaken this officer, basically what happens, if you're leading an artillery troop, this officer will attack in one point and then splash damage up to 3 ground forces within 1 grid of that specific enemy, and that damage will be 700, which is actually pretty solid. And then it will be 20% less for each additional troop. That means that the second one will be taking about like probably 550, and the third one will be taking about maybe 400 something. Right, so that's still very solid because that is one skill. You're attacking 4 enemies. The main target will be taking 1500, the secondary one will be taking 700, and it moves down 20% for each additional target up to 3 enemies within 1 grid. That is pretty solid skill over here, especially I believe this is going to be used a lot when your base is actually being attacked by multiple troops. Usually those troops are going to be all stacked within one place, and what you could do as well in addition to that is kind of target where you are attacking, so that's always a plus when it comes to these kind of skills over here. His secondary skill is a passive skill that increases the damage resist buff by 20%. It's not that great when it comes to artillery units. They're already extremely squishy, and even if we don't have this or have something else, I would definitely always prefer to have offensive kind of abilities or skills when it comes to artilleries, because they're already extremely squishy and low in terms of health. However, when this officer is garrisoned, his troops damage is increased by 35%, and then also a 40% to the firepower. And these two together are insane. That's 35 and that's 40. Those are peak percentages over here. And working with this skill, that's going to be a lot of damage output over here. Now, where do I see this officer actually being used? Definitely in the garrison, because you would need that 35%. Otherwise, if you're using this officer outside the garrison, this skill is completely negligible. So if you were to use him outside the garrison, I would go for this skill, try to max it out as soon as possible, and then try to get this skill up as well. And that's basically all you need. These two are pretty much useless outside the garrison. But if you were to awaken this officer and use him more of a defensive officer for your artilleries, if your like main focus is artillery units, then definitely this is going to be a very helpful artillery unit officer that I would highly recommend as well. Let's talk about this officer's pairing. Which officers I think that this officer actually fits with really well. Now, the first pairing that comes to mind is we need officers that deal extremely high skill damage in order to kind of maximize this guy's 25% increase in skill damage for his secondary officer. So when it comes to that, I look at Saber of the Nation, but then again, Saber of the Nation only works really well if the troops are actually far, because his initial kind of damage coefficient is only 1200, and that is not that great. However, if he is maxed out and awakened, then definitely go for Saber. That's always hands down the best choice that you have, and the reason why you should go for Saber is because of his kind of passive skill, where you will be utilizing his tactical skill way more than possible, which means that you will be dealing a 25% additional on every single proc that you are going to get from his awakened skill over here. So it's always your first choice if you have him maxed out. Now for your second option, you might think of Shevchenko, but that's actually not that great, because the reason why she's not that great or not good pairing with that officer is because she already increases the skill damage when leading an artillery troops that would conflict with the other one over there. So that doesn't work over here. But what works actually is this officer. And the problem with this one over here is that the kill radius is amazing, right? That means that you're gonna be dealing more damage to surrounding troops, which is always good. However, the only problem with this officer over here is the low damage coefficient. So it's not that great of a damage coefficient, so it's not that great of a pairing, and that is the main actual problem for this officer. But finally, we have one left, which is basically this one over here. This one is actually a pretty good pairing, and it increases the blast damage buff, but the damage coefficient is 1500. And that is always amazing, always amazing. I understand this is a field officer, but hey, if you're defending a base, then this is definitely probably your best kind of whatever choice that to use for defense. There's not many choices in terms of artillery officers. We have already seen multiple artillery officers being added to the game. Also, like if you Winter Huntsman, maybe a good choice, or any other high damage kind of coefficient ones. I definitely do recommend high damage coefficient. So Saber of the Nation is going to be your first choice if he's awakened, and then your second choice is going to be Berserker Bear. That is in my opinion on these two. But if you have some other pairings that you think work really well with this officer, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to hear them, and the community would love to see them as well. If you have any questions about these officers or how they operate, or you would like to see them in combat, please also leave a request for that in the comments below. We'll definitely have multiple videos regarding those pairings. We're gonna be doing a video in the like very soon of the best pairings. Like if you were to choose 3 artilleries in your arsenal, what would be the best pairings? Because right now we have those officers out. We have multiple officers that are being added. This one over here, there's also 2 main officers that are being added. One of them is actually for artillery, but this one doesn't actually pair well. I'll show you that when we do the highlight for this officer. So all these officers being added, we definitely need 2 videos out. We need a tier list video, and we need more kind of officer pairings videos. So hey, if you would love to see these, please leave them in the comment below as well. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll definitely see you on the next video. Bye bye.